My name is Jack. I'm 26 years old. 3 years ago, I married my middle school classmate, Alice. We don't have any children yet. Both of us love kids and had hoped to start a family soon after getting married. However, it didn't happen as planned. About a year into our marriage, she started having abdominal pains. Some medical tests revealed she had a condition with her ovaries, making it difficult for her to conceive. When we learned that, she was incredibly hard on herself, feeling guilty and crying every day. As our friends started having babies, she lost her usual cheerfulness. I don't mind if we don't have kids, as long as we're happy together. I kept telling her, trying to be supportive. Thanks, although Alice had slipped into a depression, she gradually began to recover her spirit as we traveled and enjoyed good food together. I've never thought about leaving her just for the sake of having children, and I made sure she knew that. As we spent more time together, I thought we became closer than before. Our relatives and friends would sometimes ask about us having kids, but she would just smile and say, "We're happy just the two of us." I was confident we could keep doing well together. One weekend, Alice planned a trip with her best friend from middle school, Mary. She was going on a trip with Mary. "Take care," I replied, seeing her off at the door and pondering how to spend my solo weekend. Seizing the opportunity, I called some friends and met up at a familiar bar that evening. A lot of them were still single, so it was easy to gather them on short notice. We were reminiscing when one friend announced, "We've got a surprise guest coming soon." Just then, a woman entered our private room. "Long time no see," she greeted with a smile. The moment I saw her face, my buzz faded. It was Mary. I bumped into Mary near the office this afternoon. She said she was free today, so I invited her. I'm usually with my husband, but he's on a business trip today. Seeing them chat, I was at a loss. Wasn't she supposed to be on a trip with Alice? That thought raced through my mind. "Oh, Jack, isn't Alice with you?" I was looking forward to seeing her. "We haven't been in touch much lately," she said, looking disappointed. I lied on the spot. "Oh, she's on a trip with a friend today?" Gently. Alice often went out at night saying she was meeting Mary. I don't remember much of what happened after that. Returning home alone, my mind was a mess and I could hardly sleep. Why did she lie? I had a bad feeling about it. The Sunday night, she returned as cheerful as when she left, unpacking and showing me souvenirs. Staring blankly at her, I finally asked, "Who did you go on the trip with?" Unaware that I had met Mary, she casually replied, "Huh, I was with Mary. Didn't I tell you?" Her response made me feel sad. Saturday night, I met Mary. She said she hadn't been in touch with you recently, though. Hearing that, her face turned pale as the blood drained from it. "Oh, that's because She started to say something, but then suddenly burst into cry. And she confessed that she had been unfaithful. As she spoke, I felt more emptiness than anger, as if it was all happening to someone else. She kept apologizing without revealing who her affair was with. "I need some time to think," I said, and went into my room, locking the door behind me. The blow, the shock of being betrayed hit me hard. What was our marriage all about then? I felt like my heart was tearing apart. After that, Alice and I stopped talking completely, avoiding even eye contact as we lived side by side. Should I divorce her or forgive her? I couldn't decide. But a few days later, something decisive happened. My best friend, Leon, told me he had seen her walking arm in arm with another man. Leon knew about her infidelity, so he had rushed to tell me. She's still cheating even after being caught. That moment, any feelings I had for her completely disappeared. 3 months after her affair came to light, we got divorced. We were disgusted at the thought of any further involvement. I didn't even ask for compensation. Post-divorce, I couldn't stand living in the same area as her and moved out of state for a new job. Settling into a new place and job kept me so busy that, before I knew it, 6 months had passed. Keeping busy meant I didn't have to think about unnecessary things, and I hardly remembered her anymore. Then one weekend, someone moved into the house next to mine. As I was leaving for some shopping after the move-in seemed done, I heard a familiar voice behind me. Ja. Fun. Theory. I turned around to see her, frozen in place with a large bag in her hand. I just moved in today. Wow, what a coincidence. Well, I got divorced. Standing in front of the door, I briefly explained to her why I was there. Tears welled up in her eyes. Thanks, in a panic, I invited her into my house to talk more comfortably. The person she was cheating with was my ex-husband. Ari revealed. I almost spit out my coffee. Alice had never told me who it was, so I had no idea. I was speechless to learn it was Mary's husband, Alice's close friend. I couldn't believe it when I heard you two got divorced. Then a few months later, my husband brought it up. We ended up getting divorced too. Mary looked indescribably sad as she shared her story. I see. You've had a hard time too. Very. My words seemed to release some of her tension, and she started crying. Fiction. It was shocking enough that my husband was cheating, but the fact that it was her. I was so surprised. She kept crying, as if releasing all the pent-up emotions she'd been holding in. I had to take out let the data see I'd almost moved on from the past in the 6 months since my divorce, but for Mary, it was still recent. Remembering how I felt right after my divorce, I understood her pain all too well. All I could do was listen silently as she continued to cry. She has always been the type of person who would be called a leader, and there was never a weak image of her. That means it must have been extremely painful even for her. Sorry about that, she said after a while, as she suddenly stood up, covering her teary eyes with her hand, and hurried out of the room. Left alone, I felt a surge of irritation towards Alice and Mary's ex-husband. Why did the ones cheated on have to suffer this much? I wondered aimlessly. That day ended without much happening, and the next day feeling listless. I lounged around, wondering what to do for dinner. Then the doorbell rang. Opening the door, I found Mary standing there, holding something in her hands. Sorry for showing you such an ugly side of me yesterday. As an apology, she handed me some Tupperware filled with side dishes. You've always been so conscientious, I said with a laugh, and she chuckled shyly. Let me treat you to some drinks as a thank you, I suggested, and we ate the food she brought, drinking together. As the alcohol loosened our tongues, she shared more about her ex-husband's affair. He'd started going on more business trips about a year ago, coming home late at night. It all coincided with the time he was involved with Alice, which made sense to me. Mary mentioned she had moved out of state because it was too hard to stay in our hometown. Thanks to our mutual venting, her expression brightened significantly. Since then, we started having regular meals together at each other's homes. After my divorce from Alice, I thought I was done with marriage. However, my time with Mary felt surprisingly comfortable, and about 6 months after reuniting, I asked her out. She was surprised but accepted, saying she'd be happy to be with me. Both of us had been through tough experiences, so we were hesitant about marriage. I think she felt the same way. I shared my feelings honestly with her. I want to spend my life with you, they're me. But honestly, I'm scared. Holding my tensely clenched hand, she gently laid her hand on mine. I'm scared of being betrayed again, too. But I feel like I can make it work with you. Ja. Her response solidified my feelings. I would protect Mary, who trusted me for the rest of our lives. A few days later, we got married. We didn't have a wedding, just a small celebration for the two of us. Surprisingly, our marriage was going smoothly, and a year later we had a son. I cried more than Mary during the birth, and she teased me, "Pull yourself together." Holding our little one for the first time was an unforgettable moment. Since then, we have been having a good time together as a family of 3. One day, out of the blue, Mary's father contacted us and said he needed to talk, visiting our home. Although we regularly visited her parents, that was the first time he came to us, so I was nervous. As soon as her father entered our home, he took a deep breath and said, "Jack, please. I'm begging you, become my son-in-law and join our family business." Missing the occupation, I was stunned by the sudden request and helped him up, asking him to raise his head. Mary's family owned a well-known local business. She was an only child, and her ex-husband had refused to join the family business. After her divorce, her father had almost given up on keeping the business in the family. However, with the birth of our son, he strongly wished for a successor. I gladly accepted the offer. I had known Mary's family were good people since we were kids, and as I wasn't the eldest son, my parents probably wouldn't object. When I conveyed my willingness to help, her father grabbed my hand and was overjoyed. However, it was one big concern. Taking over the family business meant we had to move back to our hometown. That meant we might run into those two again. We shared this concern honestly with him. After a moment of silence, he said, "I understand. I'll take care of it," and left for the day. Within 2 weeks, he called to inform us that Mary's ex-husband, Alice, who'd remarried and their families had all decided to move out of state. It turned out that Mary's ex-husband and his relatives worked for a subcontractor under the company of Mary's father. In a small town with few job opportunities, that was not uncommon. The power of a large company was evident. But via a single word from the parent company could easily facilitate such a transfer. While it might seem harsh at first glance, I was deeply grateful to him for striving to protect our family so directly. He never forced anything on me as his son-in-law and successor, always respecting my wishes and moving things forward thoughtfully. He even prepared a splendid host for us, sparing no expense. The treatment at the company was excellent, allowing us to provide our son with everything he needed, including various extracurricular activities. Thanks to Mary's father, we never had to worry about money. However, I reminded myself daily not to take my current status for granted and to give back more than I received through my work. Knowing from experience how easily happiness can crumble, I never forgot that my family and Mary were the sources of my happiness. Now, our son has grown into a college student and is set to start training under me as a successor after he graduates next year. I told him he could choose his own path in life, but he said, "I love Grandpa, and if it makes him happy, I'm glad and I respect you, Dad," choosing to become a successor of his own accord. It says on days when he doesn't have college classes, he comes to the company to observe the work. Although Mary's father has retired from active duty, he occasionally visits the company and watches his grandson with a contented smile. I don't know what became of Alice and Mary's ex-husband after that. I don't regret divorcing, but I also remember that not everything about my marriage to Alice was bad. We did have happy times, and it's because of that I was able to move forward and choose a life with someone I love again. People are weak and can make mistakes in a moment. But no matter what happens in the future, I want to cherish and never let go of my family's hand. I even hope that Alice, whom I once resented so much, is happy somewhere. The happy days spent with my family have healed me. It might sound naive, but I genuinely hope that everyone, including Alice, finds their own happiness.